Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with 9 little details I noticed in the gameplay reveal for the Outer Worlds. I apologize, I could not make it to 10. I am so sorry, I tried my best. But anyway, these are things that aren't going to blow your socks off, but rather just impress you on the attention to detail and things that may have gone under the radar when you looked at some of the bigger picture for Obsidian's next game. Now, let's get into it with little detail number 1, and that's the optional objectives that appear when you receive a quest from Anton Crane. On the top right corner of the screen, you get a quest called The Doom That Came to Roseway, and you have an optional objective that says Eliminate the Outlaws and one that says Subdue the Raptidons. What stuck out to me about this was that they are opposite of one another. These are very polarizing optional objectives. It's not uncommon for any game in its right mind to have optional objectives, but I just thought the way that you have to go about each of these is likely very different and requires a certain playstyle. One's more guns blazing, and one involves likely tranquilizing, stunning, non-lethal. For those who don't know, these are the Raptidons. They are ferocious looking mutants. Meanwhile, the outlaws are the people you are shooting throughout the entire facility. Once again, a small detail, nothing that'll blow your mind, but something that I noticed that gives a lot of player choice when you're going to be in that moment. Moving on to little detail number 2, it's the time dilation ability and what it actually shows you when you're aiming at an enemy. On the left side of the screen, you'll see a faction is labeled, how much health they have, and what armor rating they have. On top of that, there are some icons above all this information that I believe is used to gauge what rank this enemy is at, because some of the weaker enemies that the player character took out in a few shots had a lower rank compared to this Marauder Thug, which has 4 out of 6 dots filled in. I like these details on the left because I imagine with certain enemy types that have weaknesses, you'll be able to identify them and then switch your weapons on the fly. Speaking of switching your weapons on the fly, how about the D-pad options on the bottom left corner of the screen? I think 2 of them are safe to decipher, while one of them is a little bit of an unknown. So we have the right D-pad option, which is to obviously switch to the weapon wheel and access everything that's there. We see a weapon wheel actually being used before a lot of chaos happens as the player character tries to enter the facility. Next is if you press down on the D-pad, there is a doctor's bag, it looks like, which I believe is this healing mechanism right here. Now left on the D-pad looks like a needle of sorts, which is why I believe this is something along the lines of buffs. Based on certain enemies you're facing, maybe you need to buff your character, and this is what you're going to do. Or perhaps it's a needle that you can use to refill your time dilation meter, which actually does drain as you use it. It's the purple bar beneath your health bar. Number 3 is pretty cool and our first mention of Earth in the Outer Worlds. So bits are actually the currency inside the Outer Worlds, but here's a little more information on them that we discover when the player goes to loot a safe that's locked within a house that you have to use a lockpicking skill to get inside. Bits are an electronic currency generated by room-size Earth Directorate mint frames back on Earth. They consist of non-duplicatable codes and ciphers and can be transferred from one cartridge to another. So a little backstory on the currency, how it originated in the Outer Worlds, and more importantly, our first mention of Earth. It seems that bits are a galaxy-wide currency, not just restricted to the Halcyon colony. Little detail number 5, one companion gets a lot of the spotlight, and that's Ellie. But when we exit the ship, I noticed on the left side of the screen that we also have Felix joining us, so you can have 2 companions following you around. Now we hear next to nothing from Felix, but he's right there with us, as we can see in a combat kill cam. He's standing right there opening fire. I like this approach because I don't want to have all the companions and some of their stories and interactions spoiled for us. It seems like Ellie's more of a rough and tough, sarcastic type of character, but still I thought it was interesting that we can create a larger party than just one player character, one companion. Little detail number 6 is what I noticed towards the end of the demo, is that you are actually rewarded for skill checks in dialogue. So our lie skill was high enough, we successfully lied to this character, and in turn we received a bunch of XP for succeeding. I like this because it does remind me of Fallout, but also this is something that always plays a factor when you're making choices in games. Oh, I can get some XP if I make a choice here, but also I want to make the right choice for me, and I want to make the right choice for the situation. I want to be fully immersed in my character. It just adds one more factor to making that crucial choice in the dialogue. Number 7 is when the player character is stealthing about to try and hack into an Auntie Cleo terminal, and we notice that there are eyeballs above some of the enemies when you enter a stealth mode. Likely what this means is that if you start to get spotted or an enemy becomes suspicious, that'll change colors, and obviously the logo will change to indicate exactly what's happening. So it's nice to know that there are stealth mechanics in place to encourage that play style, to make sure it's not snuffed out for the player. I do wonder if you're going to be able to get certain abilities, like for example in Dishonored, the dark vision, where you're able to see enemies' vision cones and stuff, and that really enhances stealth gameplay in my opinion, knowing what the enemy can see and working around that. Number 8 is right in the beginning. Green outlines are everywhere in this game to highlight objects you can interact with, examine, and I noticed in the first room there was a book, probably read, there was a jacket that you could examine, and then I saw a saber on the wall, and I thought to myself, man, imagine if you could grab that and equip it. I'm not entirely sure, but hey, it's good food for thought. And furthermore, the room across from you has something of interest. I don't know really what it is, but I zoomed in on it and it just looks like something important. Couldn't tell you what. Lastly, at number 9, the final little detail for this Outer Worlds gameplay breakdown is a Cleo unit commander. It gives us a little bit of an ability to break down what exactly we'll be encountering when in combat in the Outer Worlds, because we did see Raptidons, we saw outlaws, and I generally thought those would be the enemies we're fighting, but it also turns out that some of those robots that we saw in the announcement trailer could be tied to the factions we are battling, like Spacer's Choice will likely have their own unit commander, and obviously Auntie Cleo has one. So these corporations have armies beneath them, and I thought that was an interesting bit of world building that could go under a lot of folks' noses. But anyway, these are 9 little details I picked up on while watching the gameplay reveal for the Outer Worlds. Did I miss any details? Is there anything you want to add? Fire away in the comments down below. Other than that, be sure to follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.